You are my hero. And I don't mean that like how all dads are heroes to their sons. You were a real-life superhero.
In December 2017, Barry and Honey Sherman, a billionaire couple known for their immense wealth and philanthropy, were found dead in their Toronto mansion under mysterious circumstances. Their deaths sent shockwaves through the community and left investigators struggling to make sense of the crime scene. Initial theories suggested a murder-suicide, but further examination revealed a haunting truth that the Shermans were victims of a targeted double homicide. Let's explore the puzzling details of this high-profile mystery and the theories surrounding the tragic deaths of Barry and Honey Sherman. Barry Sherman was born in 1942 and grew up displaying brilliance and determination. He completed degrees in engineering and aeronautics at the University of Toronto and MIT. In 1974, he took over a struggling pharmaceutical company and transformed it into Apotex, which became one of the largest generic drug manufacturers globally. His approach to business was aggressive, which often led to legal battles and strained relationships with competitors and government agencies.
For decades, Honey and I have both felt the commitment to do what we could for the community. She does all the community service work. She's the chair of just about everything. And my time is better spent doing what I can to try to earn money so I can write the checks.
Fair and equitable.
Fair and equitable.
On the other hand, Honey Sherman was born in 1948. She was known for her warmth and passion for philanthropy. She worked tirelessly to support hospitals, educational institutions, and Jewish organizations. She complemented Barry's business acumen with her commitment to giving back to the community. Together, the Shermans embodied success, influence, and generosity. They raised 4 children and were seen as pillars of Toronto society.
You have all learned all about this evening. We help those with disabilities to be able, to be capable, and to be successful.
However, beneath their success, the Shermans faced controversy. Barry's hard-nosed business strategies, frequent lawsuits, and conflicts with competitors created tensions that extended into their personal lives. While they projected an image of wealth and stability, the complexities of their professional challenges and strained relationships revealed a different reality. Despite this, their contributions to society and their enduring influence remained undeniable. On the morning of December 15, 2017, a real estate agent arrived at the Shermans' luxurious mansion to prepare for a showing, as Barry and Honey Sherman had recently put their sprawling 12,000-square-foot home on the market. As the agent entered the house, expecting a routine task, they stumbled upon a scene that would shock the entire nation. The couple's bodies were discovered in the basement near the indoor pool.
Police are treating the deaths of Barry and Honey Sherman as suspicious, and homicide detectives have taken over the case. The memorial will be held at the International Center in Mississauga. Barry Sherman was the founder of the Apotex drug company.
They were found side by side with their bodies positioned in a semi-seated posture. Both had belts wrapped tightly around their necks, looped around a metal railing. The positioning of their bodies was unnerving.
At this point, indications are that we have no outstanding suspect to be going after.
They were fully clothed, with their legs stretched forward, and the belts formed a noose-like effect. The scene appeared deliberately arranged, as though someone had carefully posed them after their deaths. This unsettling discovery raised immediate questions about the nature of the crime. Was it a robbery gone wrong, a targeted attack, or something even more sinister? The cold, calculated nature of the scene suggested that the murders were not random, but part of a deeper, more complex story.
They're life-size sculptures. They're made from junk. They're made in the 1970s. They're quite interesting looking, and in this context, obviously quite creepy. The Sherman's basement is enormous. The pool is at the north end, and these sculptures were...
The crime scene was meticulous, offering little to explain the violence that had unfolded within the Shermans' home. Upon entering the mansion, investigators quickly noted the absence of forced entry, indicating that the couple's attacker or attackers may have been known to them, or perhaps had a level of professional skill to bypass the security system. The house itself was untouched, neat and orderly, with no signs of a struggle in other rooms. However, the mansion's sophisticated security system had not been triggered, raising further suspicion that the perpetrators were not strangers. Honey Sherman's body showed clear signs of a violent struggle. Her face and hands were bruised, which showed she fought back against her attacker. Despite these visible signs of resistance, her death was consistent with strangulation, as evidenced by the ligature marks on her neck, which matched the belts that had been used to bind her. In contrast, Barry Sherman's body revealed no signs of defensive wounds. This absence of injury led investigators to believe that Barry was likely taken by surprise or incapacitated quickly, possibly through an ambush or the use of some form of restraint before he could react. Like his wife, Barry also had ligature marks around his neck, further corroborating the cause of death as strangulation. The Shermans' children, named Lauren, Jonathan, Alexandra, and Kaylin, were devastated by the violent and untimely deaths of their parents. Their reaction was a mix of profound grief, frustration, and a fierce determination to uncover the truth. They shared a deep bond with their parents.
Fear and uncertainty is really hard.
What's the hardest part of it?
Just not knowing why this would happen to good people who are, lights in their communities, pillars of strength to everybody who knew them. It doesn't make sense to me that...
Barry and Honey were loving but demanding parents. Barry always remained deeply supportive of his children's ambitions. On the other hand, Honey was the heart of the family as she fostered close connections while also involving her children in philanthropy from a young age. However, when police first arrived at the Sherman mansion, they initially considered the possibility of a murder-suicide.
Barry Sherman and his wife Honey have been found dead in their York Mills mansion.
The circumstances of their death appear suspicious.
According to this theory, Barry may have killed his wife before taking his own life. This assumption was partly based on Barry's reputation as a reclusive and intense individual, and the apparent calmness of the crime scene suggested a personal or emotional motive. However, close friends and family of the Shermans immediately rejected this theory, insisting that it did not fit Barry's character or his relationship with Honey.
The idea being that Barry Sherman had killed his wife and then killed himself. And that, from the start, struck a lot of people close to the Shermans as very odd.
Those who knew the couple described a stark contrast between them. Honey was remembered as vibrant, outgoing, and optimistic, deeply involved in philanthropy and community work.
Good for the community. She does all the community service work. She's been chair of just about everything. And my time is better spent doing what I can to try to earn money so I can write the checks.
On the other hand, Barry was more analytical, reserved, and methodical in his approach to life, particularly in his business dealings. The idea that he could have turned violent toward his wife, let alone taken his own life, seemed utterly implausible to those who were closest to them. Determined to seek justice, the family decided to hire a private investigative team to probe further into the deaths. The team was led by former Toronto homicide detective Tom Klatt, who conducted a second autopsy. This autopsy revealed crucial findings which undermined the initial theory and pointed to the possibility of a more complex and sinister murder. The second autopsy, conducted by the private investigative team, revealed critical information that completely contradicted the initial murder-suicide theory. The results confirmed that both Barry and Honey Sherman had been strangled, with no signs of self-inflicted wounds or the typical marks associated with a suicide. The precise and deliberate nature of their deaths, combined with the absence of defensive wounds on Barry's body, pointed to a double homicide rather than a domestic tragedy.
When officers arrived, they located Barry and Honey Sherman deceased within their residence. It was later determined that both had died of ligature neck compression.
The Shermans' children, along with their lawyers, were quick to criticize the Toronto police for their premature conclusions, as they believed the investigation was mishandled from the start.
You are my hero. And I don't mean that like how all dads are heroes to their sons. You were a real-life superhero.
They argued that the initial misclassification of the crime as a murder-suicide had delayed the investigation and possibly led to the loss of valuable evidence.
I always call on my kids, and all she ever do is tell me how much she loved them. She loved my children like her own.
A moment to look around this room and consider the enormous impact that this is having on everyone gathered here today.
The family felt that the police had failed to take the case seriously from the outset, which fueled their decision to hire a private team to conduct the autopsy and investigate further. In January 2018, after significant public pressure and further investigation, the Toronto police finally abandoned the murder-suicide theory. They officially declared the deaths a targeted double homicide, acknowledging the failure of their initial approach. The police provided few details about potential suspects.
The lawyer knows what he or she is doing, and they will be careful not to reveal anything. I think the aim here is to bring attention back to this investigation.
Or motives, citing the need to preserve the integrity of the ongoing investigation. This lack of transparency only deepened the mystery surrounding the case.
Made by the Sherman family and maintained throughout the investigation to support the Toronto Police Service in their efforts to seek justice for their parents and to pursue those responsible for these unspeakable crimes.
The murders of Barry and Honey Sherman have sparked numerous theories, each reflecting different aspects of their lives, career, and relationships. The first and perhaps most obvious theory revolves around Barry's career. As the founder of Apotex, Barry made many enemies. His aggressive business tactics and ongoing legal battles led to conflicts with competitors, associates, and even government agencies. Some have speculated that a rival within the pharmaceutical industry, or even a disgruntled former business partner, could have orchestrated the killings.
We always kept our eye on him because he always wanted to push it to the maximum and see what he could do. And there are times where he was greatly rewarded, and there are times where he pushed it too much.
Barry's outspoken nature and tendency to challenge both competitors and the system might have made him a target for those seeking revenge or resolution through more violent means.
The parasites that come into Canada set up branch plants simply for the purpose of exploiting our market to the maximum for their own benefit.
Another theory points to family disputes. Barry's relationships with his family were complicated. His cousins had previously sued him over the distribution of profits from Apotex, claiming a share of the wealth he had built.
Barry lost his father when he was 9, and my father, Uncle Lou, took him under his wing and actually brought him into the business and gave him a summer job and I guess taught him the world of generics.
Although the lawsuits were ultimately dismissed, but the resentment and bitterness that surfaced through the legal battles raised suspicions. Still, there was no concrete evidence to link any family member to the murders, leaving this theory less likely.
So I was heartbroken. I was betrayed. My cousin hurt me, and now I want to hurt him.
The staged nature of the crime scene led some investigators and observers to believe that the murders could have been the work of professionals. The absence of physical evidence, such as DNA or fingerprints, and the calculated manner in which the bodies were positioned suggested that the killers might have had specialized training. This theory pointed to the possibility of a hit carried out by someone with expert knowledge of how to execute such a crime without leaving traces behind. Finally, Financial pressures surrounding Apotex and Barry Sherman's personal finances cannot be ignored. In the years leading up to their deaths, Barry and his company faced mounting legal and regulatory challenges, including a major investigation into price fixing in the United States. With his reputation tarnished and his financial resources under strain, some have suggested that the murders may have been motivated by these pressures. Whether the killers were acting on behalf of investors or as a response to his company's troubles is still a matter of speculation, but it remains a plausible motive that continues to be explored.
This investigation, I'm sure that they're not, but the police, like any group of civil servants, there's workload issues, there's budgeting issues, and the extra investigation might only help.
The investigation into the murders of Barry and Honey Sherman faced significant hurdles from the outset. Despite the scale of the case and the resources poured into it, progress remained frustratingly slow. Toronto police reviewed thousands of hours of surveillance footage, which included footage from the area around the Sherman home, but the nature of the evidence made it difficult to develop a clear lead. Detectives also conducted interviews with over 240 witnesses, following up on any potential information that might shed light on the case. In addition, they processed more than 1,200 tips from the public, ranging from sightings of suspicious individuals to anonymous tips offering theories about the crime.
Though there is a lack of detail in features of this individual, we believe that further information from the public could assist us in making an identification. I would ask that you pay particular attention to the gait or the stride or walk style that this person.
However, none of these efforts immediately led to a breakthrough, and the case remained unsolved for years. It wasn't until December 2021 that police announced a potential breakthrough which brought renewed hope. Investigators revealed that they had identified a person of interest based on surveillance footage that captured an individual walking near the Sherman residence around the time of the murders.
There may be a legitimate explanation as to what this person's actions were in the area. If you recognize yourself in this video, please come forward so you can be excluded from our investigation.
The footage was grainy and of poor quality, which was making it difficult to discern specific details about the person's appearance. While the discovery marked a step forward, the police chose not to release a detailed description of the person, citing the need to protect the integrity of the investigation. Unfortunately, this lead did not result in any arrests or further developments. As months passed, the investigation seemed to stall once again. The police were unable to confirm the identity of the individual or link them directly to the crime, and the case remained shrouded in mystery. Despite the initial hope generated by the breakthrough, the investigation continued to face roadblocks, leaving the Shermans' deaths unsolved and the search for answers ongoing. The Shermans' deaths sparked a legal battle over their estate. Their combined wealth was estimated at $5 billion. It was divided among their 4 children. Kevin Donovan, an investigative journalist from the Toronto Star, sought access to sealed court files related to the estate, arguing that transparency was essential for justice.
And quite frankly, I'm not sure that the Toronto police have twigged to this at all. There were so many issues with the early part of that crime scene. And as far as I know, these life-size sculptures went down with the house.
Donovan's reporting revealed details about Barry's financial and legal troubles, including lawsuits against Apotex and allegations of price fixing.
Well over 1,000 pages of search warrant and production order documents unsealed. And when I was asking questions of the police officer trying to find out what was in them, he came out with this, what to me was quite a...
These revelations painted a picture of a man under immense pressure, further fueling speculation about the motives behind the murders. Despite years of investigation, several questions remain unanswered. Who killed Barry and Honey Sherman, and why? Was the crime motivated by personal vendettas, professional rivalries, or financial pressures? These lingering uncertainties keep the case alive in public memory, sparking speculation and debate.
And you say, cui bono? Who benefits? Who benefits from having killed him last year, if he was in fact murdered? There's probably a long list of people. Barry had enemies. Barry made enemies.